Hello and welcome back to episode 59 of the Rat City Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Perry the Pig, and with me, as always, is my co-host here, Dread.
Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, this is right after the interview podcast with the last Epoch devs and Rax and Ziz. So we have a lot to talk about today, as well as a lot of new uniques to talk about as well.
We do. That's exciting. So we're going to talk about some of the unique items that came up during the video, like the hype video from a couple days ago, and then we're also going to talk about 5 new unique items that were posted just today in that like interview stream session with Ziz and Rax. So we got a lot of good things to talk about here. If there's anyone watching live on twitch.tv/PerryThePig right now, if there's something you'd like to talk about or like something that you want to see discussed, you can always bring that up, because as we are waiting for 1.2 to come out, we are feeling pretty conversational with everything going on. So, I'm feeling in a good mood. We are welcome to talk about anything. Is there something you want to talk about at the beginning? Because I have one thing that I want to say.
I have the list of everything that was talked about, so we can go through that after you talk about what you want to talk about.
Okay, so the very first thing that I want to say is I made this joke as soon as I logged in on the stream today, but like someone the other day told me that Holly was gonna go on tour with like Judd, and they were gonna go from like one stream to another stream, like they were gonna talk to Ziz and whatnot. And I was like, listen, believe it or not, I'm actually not on a first name basis with everyone at EHG. I don't know who these people are. And they're like, oh, like I don't like what's Holly's like username? What and it's Trasochi. And it's like, oh, so for myself and for Dread and for people who have been around the Last Epoch community for a long time, Traz is like an incredibly helpful person, because they are like always on top of the ball. They provide like very precise information. They're like very helpful, very technical, and they have been like the mastermind behind a lot of things that go on in Last Epoch, like one of the principal designers. It's like, oh, Holly, she's the person going on the tour talking to everyone right now. So like, it changed from being like this random person from EHG that I don't know to like, oh, I've actually talked to this person many times and I have a very high opinion of this person. So huge shout out to her for being willing to like be in front of a camera.
I've had a lot of long conversations with Trass over like the forums and stuff like that. Always nice to see. It's like when I was listening to the devs talk on the podcast, it made me very confident for the future of the game, in my opinion. Very confident.
Well, it'd be like knowing the username MoxJet on Reddit. It's like, yeah, I know who MoxJet is, but like, who the hell is Judd? Like, who's that guy? Obviously the same people. So that was pretty funny. That was a good laugh that I got to have today. It's like, who is this person's username? So we can talk about unique items first. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff that was discussed during the Ziz and Rax.
We can run through it very quickly. It's not that much.
We'll do like unique items first. I want to specifically talk about idol crafting, because this is the first time that idol crafting has been told to like the general public, and it sounds fucking awesome. I don't know what it is. Hey, it sounds amazing.
Have a moment here.
Yes. Oh, please tell me. Oh, this isn't like have a moment emotionally. This is like him turn off his video camera. Oh, wait. What kind of moment are we having? Is it like an emotional moment? Oh, do you want to have some ASMR? So while Dread's having a moment here, I had an idea. I want to get in touch with every single person who's going to get like a new unique item added to the game. Like someone doing like supporter stuff. Like you spent like $1,000, $2,000. I want to talk to every single person who's going to have a supporter item. And I want to get Perrin the Swineherd referenced in everybody's flavor text, so that like I can like gradually cause this person to be like a bigger and bigger player in like the backstory of Last Epoch. That's my goal. So if any of you are buying supporter items, like hit me up. DMs are
Sorry
open.
about that. My dishwasher was sounding like it was the spawn of the devil. So
I didn't hear a thing. Good.
Fine.
All right.
Yeah, I know. It's my mic. So yeah.
Oh.
All right. So you said idol crafting. What are you talking about idol crafting?
Okay, so idol crafting first. It sounds nutso. So I'm going to give a shout out to Gavrin Gaming. He's done like a lot of lore stuff in the past. He made a big post on Twitter talking about like key points that were discussed during Ziz and Rax. So I'm going to use his post to highlight some of the things that are discussed during the Ziz and Rax interview. So he said idol crafting. Idol crafting, it only works on class idols, which are like not the generic ones, not
The
the 1x2s.
2x2s, the 1x4s.
Yeah, anything that takes up 3 or 4 spots. Yeah. So any class specific idol, it's basically Weaver's Will. You put Weaver's Will on it, and the Weaver will unveil stuff on your idol. And then if you don't like it, you can like re-roll it somehow. Like you can do it again and again and again. So there's no foraging potential that gets consumed. I don't know the list of the powerful mods that are distinct from the normal mods that are available, but like having new modifiers available, exclusively on idols that I mean, 4 affixes is twice as much as 2, and they're new powerful class specific things. Idols have so much potential in Last Epoch, and some builds get wild, crazy idols that really turn their build up to like 11. And some builds,
then you're like Forge Weapons, Forge Guard, where none of them help you at all.
And sometimes all you get is HP, res. So hopefully this helps to bridge the gap between those two extremes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. Sure. We'll see. What's your take on this thing?
I think it's a good step in making the game a little bit more complicated, because right now I think the complexity isn't as high as I would like it to be currently. But thankfully, the idol enchanting will make things a lot more complex, because now there's going to be a lot more thought put into your idol setup instead of just, hey, look, I'm just putting HP idols on. I go from 4K to 7K.
So the double HP idols have, in my opinion, kind of been a stain for a long time. When I say double HP, I mean like one of the 1x2 stout idols that have like up to 5% HP and up to 30 flat HP. And an issue that has long existed in Last Epoch is you could get 40 or 50% increased damage, which is really good, or you could get 2,000 life. And like, holy moly, 2,000 is a lot of life. Like it's, I don't know. Can we get triple HP idols, quadruple? Like, is this going to end up being interesting with idol crafting, or is this going to homogenize builds toward having like all like the most defensive, the highest HP available? I hope it's more interesting.
Well, with the way that they talked about idol crafting, they're going to work like Weaver's Will affixes.
Yeah.
Now, you can technically, eventually get what you want on your idols. The only problem is it's going to take time and the memory amber that they talked about. So it's just going to take some time. Like you can't, like you're obviously not going to get everything first try or whatever. It's going to take a few tries. Like this is going to be really good for people who want to min-max their builds to like the extreme. It's not going to be as good for people who like play for a day or two. This is like really hardcore end game stuff. Right.
So are you going to be re-rolling a bad outcome on your idol, or are you going to be like put it up on the market for Merchants Guild because you know that everything's so rare and someone's going to want the combination that you have?
It depends, to be honest. I don't even know how you'd even freaking search for that shit. So
that's a great point.
They did not talk about whether or not they'd be tradable after that happens. Oh, so that's going to be interesting.
Okay.
They did not talk about that. So we'd have to ask Mike again.
We do know that there's something called like a cocooned item that may or may not be a bind on pickup or a bind on equip. So maybe there's something about that lurking in the corners of Last Epoch right now, but we really have no idea. So the new idols, I have no idea. We don't have the pool of affixes yet. It's extremely exciting. It makes me wonder how much these are going to go for on Merchants Guild, and like, is this going to be like a smite idol for a sentinel with this like completely build enabling? I don't know.
I mean, if it's anything relevant, it's going to be crazy. If it's anything relevant, it's going to be crazy, because like there's a lot of characters that like don't get the most power out of their idols, but I'm sure they can definitely use like an extra, I don't know, 100% increased damage if that's what you can get on these things, right? Like whatever you end up getting, I don't know what's going to be on them, but like in theory, if there's just a generic pool, that it's not just too niche, right? Like it's gonna be really cool to be able to refine your build even more, because like that's the kind of step that I would take to make a build even better after I find out the build is actually good and worth putting time into. But it's a step that I don't have to take if I think the build is shit, which is nice.
Got it. All right. Extremely exciting. We're probably going to talk about it again, but I want to make sure that we also get through the unique items. I have a Imager link pulled up.
Oh my god, you have it. Thank God. You should send it to me.
This is 5 new unique items. And I will post this in Twitch chat because I don't want to alt tab in Discord real quick because I don't want to mess up any video things going on. So anyone in Twitch chat can click on that, including Dread. Cough, cough.
Perfect.
So I see 5 of them listed here. I'm just going to read out the first one and then I'll let you do the next one, all right? So the first unique item is called Scissor of Atropos. It is a one-handed sword. It's a good endgame base type. It's got 1.2 attack speed, which is a lot of attack speed. It's got some text on it, and it's a Weaver's item. So a Weaver's item, like it could be, 5 Weaver's Will. It could be 28 Weaver's Will. I don't know if there's anything new happening with Weaver's Will in the future, but as we learn more about Weaver's Will, go back and reevaluate these items in case it changes.
To give you an idea,
go ahead.
Weaver's Will usually means that the item is going to be stronger at base because you won't exactly get exactly what you want because like the problem with Weaver's Will is it's not like very easy to get what you want. As someone who has rolled a lot of Weaver items, specifically Fancy Erase, getting one exactly that you want is hard and it takes a while. So the fact that it has Weaver's Will is a quote unquote downside in my opinion. So keep that in mind as we look at these items.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Marrowphage where like the item's good, but like if you hit the right stats on it, it's like completely insane, right? So this item is like some kind of synergy between directly using a melee attack and then using a throwing attack. It doesn't say directly using a throwing, it says using a throwing attack. So it says you gain a stack when you directly use a melee attack and hit something. When you use a throwing attack, consume all stacks. Is there a limit to it? To gain
there is actually they talked about it on the podcast.
Got it.
8.
Okay, 8 total stacks. Consume all stacks to gain 8 throwing critical strike chance plus 8, so additive, and plus 8 throwing physical damage per stack. It also has melee damage. It has increased attack speed, which notably it applies to throwing attacks and melee attacks. Increased attack speed is generic. Plus 2 melee attacks, plus 9 vitality. So like I'm trying to think like what's the most basic example that I can think of to illustrate what this item might be doing. You could play melee Cinder Strike and you would go boom, 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 boom. And like when you use a throwing attack, hopefully the burning daggers count as using a throwing attack. That's like the very basic example of what comes to mind for me. What comes to mind for you?
There's a few different ways of using this. The first way was recently I actually played a build. It was like a combo rogue where you like use, shift to like line up like a big attack. In this case, it's going to be explosive trap where you run the node that throws all explosive traps out of your salvo but puts on a cooldown, and then you also throw that with shadows. And what will happen is you can do a bunch of puncture attacks in a row, get a bunch of sacks of Kismet, and then the next explosive trap you throw alongside all of the explosive traps you throw will all get that base crit and all get that throwing flat damage. Now, it isn't as strong for that specifically because shift already gives you auto crit, but another thing that it could be good for is umbral blade spinny umbral blades. You can like build up a really big thick umbral blades. Right now like there are bleed variants of big spinny umbral blades that does a lot of damage, but like this could allow for a way to play crit instead.
Yeah, thick umbral blades. I agree with you. The funny thing about crit is like you think about rogues and like rogues have really easy access to crit, but like umbral blades really doesn't. Like the vast majority of umbral blades are ailment based, which doesn't use crit, or shadow daggers, which auto crit. Like the umbral blades skill itself doesn't really have crit, and umbral blades is a very good skill. So that's a good pairing, a good thing to shout out. Like maybe this is just something you use on rogue plus umbral blade.
We don't really have that many other options right now because like we don't have like a way to make javelin into this archetype. So like
people have already been telling me about like Rive or Vengeance, and then just like you boom 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 boom, and then like you throw a javelin. To me, that sounds questionable at best. I wouldn't think about that, but there are other people thinking about that. So we don't know what the Sentinel rework is going to look like on April 2nd, but it's on someone's mind. This is a really fast item. Having 22 increased attack speed on top of a 1.2 base and the potential of rolling melee attack speed on top of that, like if speed's the only thing you're interested in, like this is a very fast item. It's cool. I don't know. I like it.
Like I said, it being a Weaver's item, is a big detractor to its use because like for an item like this, you're probably gonna want like crit multi and like attack speed or maybe a percent damage roll, and like good luck getting that in a sizable amount of time. So pretty much what the item has is what it's going to have. The +2 to melee attacks is interesting, actually, in my opinion, because there are a lot of melee builds in general that don't have enough like plus levels. Like a good example here, I could easily see running 2 of these on like an erasing strike build. You run dual scissor of Atropos with good stats on them, right? It's like 70 flat each one, has attack speed.
It's
like
fuck ton of attack speed. Okay, yeah, dual wielding.
And you just run like the like the erasing strike setup where you do the mana and all that, right? And the reason why this would be good is because erasing strike has a lot of good things in its tree. It's point intensive.
Interesting. Let's go to the second one. You want to read off that second two-handed sword there?
Clotho's Needle. Now, pay very close attention to this part because it's very important. It is a Weaver's Will item with it's a two-handed new base type called a giant rapier. It has 90 flat damage on it and 8% melee base crit on the implicit. We do not have swords that have base crit on the implicit.
That's a really good new base type. Super strong.
That is very good. Now, block chance is converted to parry chance while not wielding a shield. While not wielding a shield. This is pretty good because block and parry chance is significantly better in multiple different like it's like magnitudes better than block, like super bajillion better times than block.
Real quick, cool. Like parry chance is better than block chance because block chance uses block effect, which is just another thing you need to build. Parry chance, if you parry something, you take 0 damage.
Yep, and so as Misha brought up, while you're like spinning with like Warpath, you get a bunch of block chance that gets turned into parry chance. Use your shield bash to like get the block chance buff. That's parry chance. So it allows you to build up a lot of parry chance very quickly. 25% melee critical strike multiplier per meter from the target, up to 5 meters. This is a meme. It's a meme.
How big is 1 meter? I don't know.
It's a meme. It's like this is like about the size of like you from the dummy and like in the circle around the dummy or whatever. Yeah,
that's not why you're using the item.
90 flat damage on it, so it's 180 flat damage in total.
A ton.
Generic.
Yes,
that is a ton. 11 strength, which is a lot. That's 44% increased armor. That's a lot. And 11 dexterity, which is a lot. I don't know why you'd be using it with dexterity, but still, it's a lot. And also as well, there's like one throwaway line, 20% increased range with firebrand and puncture. You're never going to use it for this, by the way. That's a meme. So the reason why this is so strong is because there's a lot of ways of getting a lot of block chance, but that block chance usually isn't that usable without having a bunch of block effectiveness. But like for instance, a good example here, 40% parry chance is so much higher.
40% less damage taken.
It on average, yeah. But still, it is insane. It is absurdly insane. This item is going to see use in some places. Like I said, it's a Weaver's Will item, but it's a Weaver's Will item that knows its place, that it understands that Weaver's Will is bad technically, so it's good by itself.
Are you ever going to use this item because it has 180 flat damage on an 8 critical strike chance and a good 1.1 base type attack speed? Are you ever going to use this item without caring about the parry chance stuff?
If it rolls good Weaver's Will mods, yeah. That's what it requires, yeah.
Like it's good offensively, it's good defensively.
Mind you,
I like it.
The higher the item level, like the LP level of these items, the rarer it's going to be to see like higher Weaver's Will amounts. So you're not going to get absurdly insane. Now, for weapons, Weaver's Will items aren't as bad because you only need a good prefix. Suffixes suck. So you only need a good prefix to get
like you
started.
want you want armor shred, you want all attributes, but like if you don't get it, it's no big deal. The prefixes are way more important.
Even T5 melee attack speed would be enough to put this item like on the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it.
It's good.
Let's go to the next one here. I'm under the impression it seems like it's been confirmed. I've been told.
Yes, it's Uber Aberoth drop.
Okay, so this is an Uber Aberoth item. So we've talked about it. We've talked about another one.
So is the relic. So by the way.
We'll talk about the relic in a moment here. We've seen that one previously. I believe this is the first time we've seen this unique pair of gloves. While I read this item off, think about Ravenous Void, and just like, that's an item that exists. It has a relevant implicit on it. This is a different implicit, and this seems Ravenous Void adjacent. So let's read this item. It is a Eternal Gauntlet, which means it is like the best glove base type. It has that armor mitigation, also applies to damage over time. I think about like monk. Something in my brain is telling me monk. Like, is there like a World of Warcraft, like a monk class or something? Like damage taken, damage over time.
I mean, we just have like petrified blood from PoE.
Oh, sure. Petrified Blood has this thing as well from PoE, doesn't it? So it says 30% of hit damage, not all damage, hit damage taken from bosses and rare enemies is dealt over 4 seconds instead. So only for bosses and rare enemies. While you have more than 10% of your maximum health as delayed damage, damage to health below endurance threshold is reduced by 30%. I'm going to simplify this so that I can parse it better in my own brain. It basically says, while in combat against a boss, damage to your endurance threshold is reduced by 30%.
So this item is a lot stronger than people realize. So it's not good if you are like doing normal mobs, like if you like push arena.
Can I read the rest of the item? There's 4 more lines of text. Like I read the interesting part.
No,
but there are 4 more lines of text on this item. It has 26 melee attack speed, which is a ton. Melee damage leaches health, 90 health, 9 strength. It has a lot of generic text, and then it also has the 2 interesting parts. Okay, now continue.
Let's be real. The interesting parts are what's cool about this.
That's why they're called the interesting parts. Hold up.
So the problem here is the gloves aren't very good outside of like bossing for the most part. Like, sure, rare's not chunking you, but I'll be honest, in the Monolith of Fate, most of the time I'm going to be dying to Wingari throwing axes at me. I'm not going to be dying to the random profane flesh. Like, let's be real, right? If you've actually played the game. But there's some really interesting implications with this thing, specifically for Lich, because if you're in Death Seal, right, you're at 30% of your HP, which is like under your endurance threshold, and you're taking damage over time. So let's say that you took a boss hit, it's like 10% of your HP. All of a sudden, you're taking 30% less damage. Just low-key, on top of all your endurance, all that. Like, yeah. So it's good for face tanking hits, but as Misha points out, damage over time is going to kill you, not hits. So like it's a cool pair of gloves, but its time is not now, if that makes sense. Like, there isn't content that you would want to. The fact that it's only bosses and rares and not everything is a problem. Like, because I don't know if you've ever played Last Epoch, but like usually when you die, it's because of the 20 Osprix Raiders on your face, not because of the rare that punches you.
That opinion is good, and like the stance is valid. We don't know if there's gonna be rebalancing. There were a lot of people complaining about damage over time in the past. It's like this is a very strong generic pair of gloves. It has a lot of relevant text, and like it's a good base type. You can use this for like the LP system. You're gonna get at least 1 LP on this because Nemesis eggs exist, right?
Yeah.
So like this is a good strong pair of gloves. It doesn't enable anything. It's not gonna make a new build, but like when you're finishing off your character and you're making the best item choices possible, this is always an item that's gonna be on your radar. Just like Red Ring, just like Ravenous Void, just like Nihilus.
Yeah, what's cool about this is like if you're playing a build that leeches a lot, this is a lot more interesting for you, right? Like if you leech a lot like a VK, it's a lot more interesting for you. Anything that has really good sustain, right? Like if you're playing Judgment and you're like healing per second, it's really good for you because it Petrified Blood, if you don't know, in Path of Exile is really good, but Petrified Blood works for everything, while this only works for bosses. And unfortunately right now, like 99% of the time, you're not spending that much time fighting bosses. Like actually, like you spend the least amount of time fighting bosses in comparison to normal mobs. So like I said, like Perry said, it's gonna get balanced. Mobs in general hopefully will get balanced. But like right now, its time is not now, but eventually it will be.
Is this like, I'm gonna try to ask a different question. Is this a successful addition of an item to the game, or is this or is this like too boring?
No,
do you wish it had more spice?
I just think that it just said 30% hit damage taken was just taken. Like
not the boss and rare stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Well, yeah, it's fine. It's just like, I don't know. Ravenous Void is better. Let's be real, because it just generically reduces the
And it's got
amount of damage
vitality on
taken.
it for my Void Knights.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just like the thing. I'm actually happy, by the way, to see this because farming Uber Aberoth sounds like AIDS. So like, it's
Come
fine.
on.
But
All right.
it's not as good.
Speaking of farm Uber Aberoth, which I'm
Yeah.
going to try to do because it sounds fun to me, there is another unique item. We've seen this unique item before. I'm just going to read through it real quick because I don't think there's much to talk about. It is a new relic base type. Less damage taken is the base type. This is a Uber Aberoth drop. It's super strong, super generic. It says you are immune to slow. You have haste. Between 1 to 5 critical strike chance, additive. Between 1 to 10 all attributes. Between 10 to 100 increased effective frenzy on you, +1 all skills. Boring, doesn't do anything. Super sweet item that I'm planning on using often when I get it.
Yeah. So there's a few things to discuss about this. First things off, I just want to let you guys know. On the podcast, they confirmed that there is that unique thing that they showed us in the trailer. That is a unique affix reroller. So it will reroll the affixes. So if you get 2 really bad pairs of Shattered Worlds, you can consume one of them and reroll the affixes of the other.
Really?
So you have, yes, you have ways, but the problem is it has to be the same like rarity. So it has to be 1 LP, 2 LP, whatever, right? Or Weavers or higher. So for these items like Shattered Worlds, it's really good because odds are you're going to drop it with no LP and then you're going to put it in the Nemesis egg, right? So the fact that like the reroll only cares about the rarity is really good for an item like this because you're often going to be rerolling items like this because it's never going to drop the LP anyways, right? Who cares? And it has really high roll ranges and you're trying to go for a really good one. This is really cool because like there's not that much base crit in the game right now. There's very specific spots outside of weapons that have base crit. So this will buff like every single meme build. Like if you want to play like the stupid
this does a lot for meme builds. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. It's the meme build enabler for sure. And it's just a generically good item. The only problem I have with it personally is all the other relics in the game are really fucking strong. Would I wear this over a Twisted Heart? That's a good question. Would I wear this over like a Vessel of Strife? That's a good question. I don't know if I would, but it's still really strong.
Presumably, it's also easier to get 2 LP on those things. I know talking about like a 2 LP Twisted Heart or a 2 LP Vessel of Strife is like kind of a stretch in and of itself. But like this thing drops from Uber Aberoth, it's going to be harder to get a 2 LP one of these, right?
And you also have to get it well rolled.
Yeah.
By the way, like that's the more important part because like it has to roll well. Like if it's a shitty one, it's a shitty one.
So
right?
the very first thing that I said about this new unique relic that dropped from Uber Aberoth is like it's boring, and like that's not what you want to hear when you're going into patch 1.2. But like I think that's a good thing. Do you want your end game chase unique items to be build enabling that cause you to reroll and finally play the build that this thing allows you to do? Or would you rather it just be like, you have haste, you're immune to slow, you have crit, you have +1 to all skills? I like that. I think it's completely fine.
I am completely fine with this because I've been like not necessarily a fan of currently how bossing is in Last Epoch. So not having the boss items be ridiculous is good.
I do think that we missed an opportunity for Shattered Worlds to have like positive and negative rolls the same way the Nihilist does.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that there were like positive and negative rolls for like you are immune to slow. So like you are always slowed and you cannot gain haste would be like one variation. I think that'd be like the funniest thing in the world, dude. Come on.
That would be overkill. Let's be real. -1 to all skills.
Oh
that'd be hilarious.
Minus 100% effective frenzy on you. Oh no.
Yeah. I think overall, I think it's a good addition to the game. I think it's fine. That 100% increased frenzy effect though is a lot more interesting than you might think because the sword catcher unique cares about increased effective frenzy, by the way. So this would actually end up giving you even more flat damage as well.
I gotta go pull that up. What's that thing do?
It just gives you flat damage while you have haste. I mean, frenzy, and the effect of your frenzy applies that flat damage, right? And it's really good because like sword catcher is just a good item in general, and this just gives everything that sword catcher was missing. So like, and you also get +7 to all melee skills if you use this alongside sword catcher, which is insane.
plus 60 to melee damage while you have frenzy, increased by effects that increase the effect of frenzy on you. So this new relic potentially gives you plus 60 damage on your sword catcher.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Sword catcher, this is like your best in spot.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Also, it
right
gives
there.
you base crit that you didn't have on sword catcher.
True enough. Right? All right, so we have one more new unique item to talk about that was discussed on the like Ziz Rax dev thing today. Dread, how about you tell about this blight of Lechesis item?
Oh yeah, it's an item. All right, we're good.
All right, done.
We're good now. All right, okay, fine. All right, it's called Blight of Lechesis. It's a Weaver's Will item. It's on the Temple Staff base, so it has mana regen and -5 mana cost and
100 staff. All right.
And it has +2 maximum skeletal mages from 1 to 2. Okay. +2 or +1 to 2 necrotic minion skills, +1 to 2 cold minion skills, +1 to 2 lightning minion skills, up to 170% increased minion damage, and 61% chance to electrify a minion hit. We don't know the rolls there because they didn't show us. But so the biggest problem with this item is it's entirely like dependent on skeletal mages being good. And right now, skeletal mages aren't that good. And the good skeletal mage build is the soul skeletal mage build, which doesn't really benefit from this that much.
You mean the solo one, like like the Archmage node, whatever it's called?
Also as well, so another big problem with it is the fact that it's a Weaver's Will item. If you're playing a minion build, let's say you're playing a minion crit build, right? You're going to want minion flat on the suffix. That's like the most important affix of your build is the minion flat on your suffix. Good luck getting it with your Weaver's Will with all the other affixes that exist in the game, right? Like there's prefixes that don't help you. There's a myriad of suffixes that don't help you. This item is like low key. Like they did confirm it. This is dropping from one of the Woven Echo bosses or whatever that's in like Monolith. I think it's awful. It's just like really bad.
So there could be a minion out there that gets like the necrotic and the cold and the lightning tag at the same time.
Yeah,
and like this gives you +6 or something.
Yeah, but you could just run an item that actually gives you damage though. That's like the problem. It's like
people have asked me.
Very important.
I don't know who, like I appreciate having new viewers in Twitch chat, but the people who ask me like, hey, is this item any good? Like, homie, I am the worst person to ask about whether a minion item is good, and I'm still pretty sure that this is terrible. Like, yeah, I am even me. Like, I'm pretty sure that this is not where you want to be.
The problem with this staff it's binary. If skeletal mages are good, it is good, and then even if it's good, even if skeletal mages are good, you still have to get one with stats on it, right? It's a Weaver's Will item. Remember, I don't know if anyone's ever interacted with Weaver Will's items, but it is 20 billion times worse than legendary items, like 20 bajillion times worse. Like you have to spend so much longer trying to get a good one from this, and it's a drop from a boss. So not only do you have to farm that boss on repeat to get these, then you have to run it, or you can use the new Runes of Weaving, by the way, to figure out if it's ass first, right? Also as well, it's on a high tier base, so it's probably going to have a high amount of legendary potential. So it's not even going to roll with that much Weaver's Will. Like there's just so many red flags with this item that it's just like, for me to say it's good would me have to like just give away like all logic and reasoning, right? Like it's not a very good item.
So we've talked about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many unique items are going to be in the patch. The things that they showed on the screen.
Oh, we do know. We know. They said there's 25 of them in total. 8 of them are going to be Weaver's Will items. You know, Perry should actually watch.
I got to do some quick math real quick. Do I have to go back and look at the video to see how many of them they've actually talked about at this point?
I mean, we can do that later, probably.
We'll do that later. I assume that there's unique items that we haven't seen yet.
But mage ailment build, that would require skeletal mages to be good. Also, as well, there's like minion dot % on the suffix that you'd want. It doesn't spawn on this. So
I mean, the
So
chance to
there's
electrify a
totally
minion hit's
problems.
cool. They said they were
It's cool,
buffing.
but it's
No, they're buffing electrify or like something around electrify because Judd talked about that on the
yeah.
interview. But like, if that's the thing you're excited about, are you gonna play like forged weapons electrify with a staff? Like, no, come on. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, like in like skeletons doing the electrify. Like if you've actually played like a skeleton build, like a skeletal mage build recently, you'll know that this is not a good item for it. Like, low key, like other than the +2 is great, but like I said, that requires skeletal mages to be good, which they're not right now.
There
So
we
it's
go.
just like, yeah.
We got some additional pictures of the crafting materials that are already
We already know about those.
the
Yeah.
Rune of Redemption and the Rune of Havoc. We talked about these previously, and I think we even talked about them in the podcast too. So there's
Yeah.
nothing new for that regard. Okay. I'm gonna go back to my notes here and see what
If
else
you
we
want,
want
we
to
can
talk
talk
about.
about all the other uniques now.
Oh my god, pull them up. You go pull up the
Yeah.
unique items. I'm gonna
I'll
review
go
my
find
notes
them
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
All
I'll
right.
go find them.
We're gonna take a 20-second breather. We're gonna read Twitch chat and review my notes. What does Twitch chat say? It's cool that Perry didn't just get an amulet this season, but a sword as well. The Perry sword, Lamau. But
Oh, now you gotta apologize for making your amulet a minion amulet.
it's not my amulet. However, it's super cool and I like it. So hopefully there's a use case for that amulet that is not just.
Does anyone have a link to that Imager link that we had? I'm trying to find it right now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, do your thing. I'm catching up on Twitch chat real quick. Any new source of flat crit is dope. Agree with you. Generic for the win. We like in-game generic items. Additive crit chance. Yeah, it's additive crit chance. Yes. I guess one thing that's noteworthy from the very beginning is like the idol crafting seems like the currency for re-rolling your idols seems to come from tombs and cemeteries. And like we know that the weaver's skill tree is going to like influence how you do your what do you call it? Like or what your end game farming is going to look like. My end game strategy is going to be tombs and cemeteries.
My end game strategy is going to be turning off arena echoes and seeing what else happens there.
It's like this is what I want. I want to do as many tombs as possible, as many cemeteries as possible. I want to do idol crafting. I don't know what like the pool of new modifiers looks like, but if this is like the new endgame crafting, this is where I need to get my crafting materials from. I want. Right. I'm starving for information.
I pulled up my video. We can talk about these. So the first one we're going to talk about. I'm going to read it off for you since
Tell me.
It's on my screen here.
Sing to me.
It's called Gordian Prism.
Oh God.
So it says. Oh, someone got us it. Oh my God, thank you. Oh my God, someone got us the Imager link.
If you, whoever just got that, yeah, I was gonna say just post that there in Twitch chat as well.
Thank you so much. All right, now we can go through these.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. You keep going.
Yep. All right, we'll talk about Dominance of the Tundra first. So Dominance of the Tundra is a unique helmet, Iron Cask. It's got like 40 flat armor on it. It requires level 10. Evade cast Glacier along its path. +10 strength, +7 intelligence, +400 armor, 50% reduced bonus damage taken, and 25% increased evade distance.
This is the new best leveling item in the game, right?
Yeah, it is. It is one of the best leveling items in the game. Yes.
It requires level 10. Evade casts Glacier.
Just for the armor. Just for the armor. It doesn't even matter about the
400 armor is a ton of armor for level 10.
Plus the 10 strength. It's 440 armor plus the 40% increase from the helmet, right?
What's the level on Isadora's belt? That thing has flat armor on it as well.
It's got like 200 on it.
That's so much flat armor if you like put both of these on.
It is like the leveling item. Now, there are talks about using this on like Werebear that I've talked with my Discord. You can use this on Werebear alongside the Harbinger of the Stars belt.
You want to play a Glacier? You want to cast Glacier on Evade as a Werebear, and then also have your crits proc Meteors?
Well, you would use this for clear, and then you'd use something else for single target. You'd use like Tornadoes or something. for single target to get meteors. But for this, it allows you to evade while you're in a werebear form and create big, large explosions, which then will crit and create meteors.
Yeah,
right?
but where are you
It
gonna
means-
get your flat critical strike chance from? Come on.
What do you mean?
You use
What?
the new relic that gives you +5 crit. Oh my god, the
goodness.
whole
Of
thing's
course,
coming
yeah,
together.
Of course, yeah. Woo. We're gonna call it Wizard Bear.
I like
Also,
it.
it has strength on it too, so like
It
it's a
does, it
good
does. And like, low level, probably low LP level as well. Probably get this with like, 3 LP, 4
I hope
LP.
not. This is kind of crazy.
No, I want to
This is kind
see
of a crazy
Glacier
item.
Werebears. It sounds fucking awesome, dude.
All right, that one's gonna be cool. But it like so there's also talks about the wand that makes you cast Static Orb when you like evade.
Yes,
So
yes.
eventually there might be evade the build, right?
Ooh, okay.
Evade the build might eventually become something.
Yeah, like the
That's
+1
cool.
charge evade boost boot type, or even the unique item boot
Yeah.
type. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
you just use it while clearing. That'll be fun. Use like Static Orb.
I'm
orbit.
surprised that it's like called it Tribo Electra, I think is the name of that one-handed wand.
Mhm.
I thought it was going to be insane. It really did not make a splash at all during the 1.1 cycle. I wonder if that'll
Well,
change
it's
for the
because
cycle.
you just stack mana and make Static Orb do insane.
Well, I
amounts of
guess there were
damage.
different things going on during the patch instead. But I
Yeah,
really
like
thought that thing was going to have
item-
more of an impact.
Once that all settles down, that item will get to see use again.
I hope so.
Especially with this helmet. This helmet adds on to that, by the way. Like this helmet is insane for that.
All right, I'm gonna read
Um,
off the second unique item. We can alternate here.
Oh yeah.
So this is a unique amulet. It's a Weaver's Will item, and it's an Oracle base type, so it has the less damage over time taken. I don't know why we're laughing.
I'm laughing
Okay.
because it's a minion item.
Okay, I'm currently laughing. So every 10 seconds, minion. Do I have to read it? Okay, every 10 seconds, a random minion is chosen, receiving Frenzy and 200% of the stats on this item. So you're only going to use this in a solo minion build, unless
Yep.
you're crazy. Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a solo minion amulet. It also has 14% HP, 96% increased health regen, and void res.
It's just a good amulet. By
It's
the
just
way,
a good
like,
amulet, right?
But it's a Weaver's Will amulet, which means, of course, the same things we've talked about. So
Yeah.
like, you'd have to have good stats on it first.
And the
Like-
the observation that you made about Weaver's Will items like a couple of minutes ago is like the base item is very strong. You kind of just use it for that as a stepping stone
Yeah.
item. But like the Weaver's Will is like, okay, well, maybe it's not end game unless it's perfect. But
So the problem with this one is like, it's gonna depend on what you roll on it. Because if you roll percent lightning, oh, you got an item for like Solo Crow, or for like I don't know, like Storm.
I
Totem or
think that's
something.
fine though, right? Like you roll the
Yeah.
affixes on it, and you're like, oh man, what's the
Yeah.
minion that makes the best use of this? So like every 10 seconds of energy, like you have permanent uptime, right?
Yeah,
On the text on
it's-
this thing, it's like
yeah,
the
it
really
pretty
good
much is,
amulet.
yeah.
I just
It
don't
is.
ever want to play it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It does give a good way of giving frenzy that you didn't have access before.
It's,
so that's cool.
you played a lot more manifest armor than I have. Is this a good manifest armor item?
No,
Why not?
because like you don't need it. You just don't
Need.
it.
What
just
is it?
don't
What
need it.
what minion minion amulet is this thing competing with? Like the crit multi take more damage
The problem
thing?
is, so the biggest problem with like minion builds is like a lot of your slots are focused on yourself. I mean, on your minion. So like you need some slots to focus on your own survivability, and this doesn't really meet that. Like,
It's got
it's so
percent.
strong, you
It's got
use
percent HP
anyways.
on it. Like that's kind of a big game for an amulet.
Yeah, but like that, like it's interesting. Like I said, this like it's very like questionable. I think very questionable amulet. Like it all just depends. Like if you get like tier 7 crit multi on it, all of a sudden, yeah, fucking course you're gonna use it, right? But it's like good luck getting that, right? It's a Weaver's item. You know, you gotta
Like
gotta
good
put in the
luck
work.
getting it, but like eventually you're gonna get it at some point. You just,
yeah,
like, just-
maybe
just,
when
like, target
the
farm it,
universe
or just
burns
buy a
over.
bunch. If you only want like one affix on like tier 7 crit multi, like you'll get that.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I as you can see, I have a little bit of a prejudice against Weaver's Will items right now. Let's put it like that. So like,
Got it.
I'm not necessarily we can't see the nest of nightmares. All it says is apply spiders on hit.
Yeah, I'm so sad that we're alternating, and this is technically yours to read. So you go ahead and read.
Skip it. So I'll read Essence Weaver.
Why would you skip it? It's like the best item.
It's cool, but we can't read it.
We don't know what it does. This is a one-headed.
Know what it does.
This is a one-headed mace, which is terrible. It's a Doomstar mace, which is a really good base type, but maces are terrible, so you'd never use it. It's a Weaver's Will item, so stipulation. It has the text, chance to inflict spiders on melee hit. We have no idea what that means. I love it.
Cool.
Gives me a nightmare. I don't want spiders on melee hit.
I'll take that amulet over a rare bone amulet, though. I don't know.
No, he said I don't know if he's gonna do that, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know about that. I agree with that. So, Essence Weaver. It is a two-handed spear with 100 flat on it, 175% shred armor on melee hit. It is a Weaver's item. Gain a stack of elemental essence when you directly use a melee attack and hit at least one enemy up to 9 times per 3 seconds. At 9 stacks of elemental essence, consume all stacks to randomly cast Smite, Frostclaw, or Stormbolt at a nearby enemy per essence consumed. Stats on this item are tripled for casts which consume elemental essence. 51 flat spell, 114% increased elemental damage, and 35% increased mana regen. So to put it bluntly, if you're proccing these, you're going to get like 300% increased damage and 150 flat from these. All right, Perry, what are your thoughts on it before I shit all over it?
I was going to try to cut you off before you shit all over it. This item is super interesting.
It's cool.
I love it. I love that they're willing to just like toss out text like, fuck it. If you use this item, triple it. It makes me think like, you know what? If you're going to self-cast Detonating Arrow, it does 10 times the damage. Because no one does that, because everyone uses fucking explosive type instead. Like, they're just, yeah, you know what? If you're gonna do the meme, if you're gonna do the thing, triple it. Awesome.
Yeah.
This item is not good. This item's like, I want to call it unusable.
It is a meme item. It's like
a meme item.
It's like the it's like the Rat City Spear, It's just a good meme, It's gonna be fun to play with.
It looks fun. Good. It looks fun. If you're a sweaty tryhard, you probably don't care about this. You read like the first line of text and then you just like fell asleep and went on to the next item. But like, it is a cool item. It does depend on like, can you get attack speed? Is there support for spears in the game? This is an obsidian lance with 0.94 attack speed. Like, it's not a particularly fast one. It's not, it's not the good base type. It's got armor shot on melee hit instead of melee crit multi, but like, do you need melee crit multi if you're playing a spell build? Who knows? I don't know what you do with this thing. I wish it worked with Rive, when Rive has like double the text of your two-handed weapon, but it says double the text of two-handed weapon only for Rive. But you're proccing spells, so it doesn't double for that as well. I just want to double stuff and triple stuff in the same build.
So
I don't care about
the problem, if you're wondering why we're calling this item bad, by the way, the base version of Smite, Frostclaw, and Stormbolt are all, put it bluntly, very bad. Smite gets a 250% more damage multiplier in its tree.
When you spec into it, yeah.
When you spec into it. Frostclaw literally does 5 times the amount of damage when you spec into it. And then Stormbolt is just like used outside of its tree in general. Like, there are better, like, Stormbolt's not that good by itself. You have to like abuse it with other things. So the base version of these is bad. But of course, you must be wondering, well, why don't I spec into one of these skills? Well, the problem there is, I don't know if you notice, it's random. So you get 9 different rolls. I
want to be optimistic. I want to be on the copium train. So I'm going to cut you off. Maybe if the alt text on this item is if you spec into one of them, it gets chosen 100% of the time.
If it was like that, it'd be ridiculous and it would probably get nerfed, because imagine casting 9 Frostclaws in a row.
Yeah, cool.
Like, let's be real, that would make it good, and we're not allowed to do that here. So
sometimes the alt text on an item tells us a lot about how we get to use the item. At face value, Essence Weaver two-handed spear does not look particularly good, but like maybe under the hood it works different than how we're assuming.
Are you leaking things?
I don't think so. Let's move on to the next item. So we talked about
shit, you are. Holy crap.
We're talking about Gordian Prism. I'm gonna take this one because I've got a story about it as well. So Gordian Prism is a offhand catalyst that you would use as a Rune Master. That's it. You directly cast 3 runic invocations, or sorry, directly casting 3 runic invocations always casts Grand Prism Nova instead. So all of your runic invocations become Grand Prism Nova. And then like
They'll
Grand Prism
become
Nova,
bad.
or like Nova does this, Nova does this, Nova. It's got more text on it. So like this item greatly depends on Grand Prism Nova being good. Visually, S tier. It looks like Discharge from Path of Exile. On the other hand, like this is, we could spend half an hour, more than that, talking about Rune Master, talking about the balance changes over time that put it ahead of Sork and then greatly behind Sork, the issues with Runic Invocation, the issues with the chess piece for Runic Invocation that I don't remember the name of, that's mandatory for your build. Like, Grand Prism Nova,
criterion.
Grand Prism Nova is not one of the 40 Runic Invocations that's playable. It's pretty, and that's about it. Unless something is going on with Rune Master, I have very low expectations for this unique item. My story about this item is that Dread on my Twitch channel used his 250,000 channel points to like, he's going to decide what my league starter is for 1.2 on April 2nd. And the moment that I saw this item, I was like, oh shit, he's going to, I was like, Dread, please don't. Dread, don't do it. Don't make me play Gordian Prism offhand catalyst. I don't want to.
It doesn't have a class requirement. It could make you use it on Sentinel.
You could. It's got elemental damage and word decay threshold. That means it's good.
Yeah, of course.
All right, let's scroll on to the next one. How about you talk about this one? Because this is like a minion item, right? So you should talk about it.
Pearls of the Swine. It is a unique bone amulet. Good start. It's not a Weaver's item, which is really like off to the races already. Like it seems like being a Weaver's item is a downside at this point, apparently. But Bone Curse also inflicts Acid Skin. Acid Skin, if you don't know, is a curse from Warlock, from Chthonic Fissure, that gives you a 20% base crit chance on the enemy. This is not, it's additive. It is not multiplicative with all of your other crit. So
it's like crit bone. You can't scale it.
Crit bone. You can't scale it. Unless if you do actually spec into like Chthonic Fissure, which you can scale it then. But then that's cool. 118 ward per second for each curse affecting you. That's a lot of ward per second. You can get a lot. You can at least have 3 because you can get Torment on you. You can get Bone Curse on you. You can get this also on the extra curse on you. So this can be like 360 ward per second, which is competitive with like fucking like what is it called? Examinus, by the way. That is a lot of ward per second. And then percent poison damage, I'm going to assume that changes based on what it is. Remember, by the way, there's Bone Curse inflicts like
Penance,
the other curses.
Penance and Decrepify.
Yeah, and Decrepify. Yeah. It has 8 Vitality, which is good. 10% to all res, which is good. And +4 to all attributes, which is also good. So just like to give you an idea, we were talking about like, hey, like the Inheritance of the Erased doesn't look that good of base. This is what we're talking about, by the way, when we say like there are better things for that slot. Pearls of the Swine is looking to be an insanely good item, like in general. Unfortunately, it's going to be a really good minion item, but still.
There might, I don't know. I hope it's not only a minion item. So my hope is there's one that says Bone Curse also applies Decrepify, and Decrepify comes from Ghost Flame. And
that's
it's like
good for damage over time.
Yeah, and it's like enemies take % increased damage over time. So like that, yeah. Maybe there's like some kind of like self damage non-minion build thing. For those who don't know the story about this, I posted it on my YouTube channel as well. Pearls of the Swine is a collaboration between Noxious, the content creator, and myself. And then it has a bunch of references to me because he's a fan of my content and he wanted to put something in the game that was like kind of like putting me in the game as well. So the flavor text references Perrin the Swineherd and like the title of the item, Pearls of the Swine. And he and I went back and forth for like a year, it feels like, talking about the design for this item. So it's pretty cool. I like it. Also, the artwork is bomb. It's so good.
Very good item. It gives you an insane benefit for just cursing yourself, which like you already have a lot of benefits for cursing yourself as an acolyte, by the way, because you get like 60% cast speed. Like it's just insane. Like this item is just like it's going to see play one way or another. The only thing that I'm worried about it is the LP level of it, but like the item is so good at its base that it's not that big of a deal. Also, why does it have so much stats on it? Like you just compare this to like Gordian Prism. Like Gordian Prism, like the upside of it is to use Grand Prism Nova. That's not an upside, that's a downside.
Yeah,
You're
so
downgrading your runic invocation.
So vitality gives you necrotic res. All attributes gives you vitality, which gives you necrotic res. All resistances gives you necrotic res, and then the base type gives you necrotic res. Mana. So it works. If you're like stacking necrotic res in some kind of way, you know, this is a good amulet for you. Eh?
It's a really good amulet, and like Perry said, the Decrepify version is really good. The only problem is the penance version is probably going to be bad, but that's not because of the amulet's problem. That's because penance is bad.
I don't know what you do with the penance version. I haven't brainstormed
it. Penance is a very bad curse.
All right, let's move on. We got the next one here. You did that, so let me do this one. This is gonna be a very short conversation because half the text you can't read. But this is it's called Ravager's Dart.
Oh, we don't even know what Heartseeker does. There's no point in talking about this.
Yeah, it's Ravager's Dart. It's a unique helmet with no class requirement on it, but like presumably you'd only use this on a marksman or something. So Heartseeker is a new skill coming in 1.2 on April 2nd.
It was confirmed that Heartseeker is marksman only, by the way.
Okay, gotcha. So marksman only, so probably on like the top half of the tree or something, right? Yeah, so marksman skill, you know, shoot a bow. Maybe it does something, I don't know. It's a bow skill. But it also gives throwing damage with Heartseeker per dexterity. And then it says Heartseeker counts as a throwing skill. So if there's some kind of payoff for converting this thing to being a throwing skill instead, well, like, you know, we'll see about it. But I like having new options for marksman because like marksman has an appropriate power level in a handful of their builds. It's like very limited in the decisions you get to make as a marksman because there's like 2, maybe 3 good builds and a lot of things just fall off or aren't available to you. Or like if you look at the number of skills that a rogue just has fewer skills by like 5 or 6 or 7
and marksman
than any other class.
And marksman are just less skills because like falconer and blade dancer have way more of an overlap of what they want to achieve than marksman does. It's kind of like the spellblade problem.
Mm-hmm. Where like the other 2 are like spellcasty, and this one's like melee stuff, so there's very little overlap. So we'll see what Heartseeker ends up being and what this helmet ends up being, like whether it's a big deal or not. The next item, Dread, you can read this thing. I'm keeping an eye on this item, but you go first.
All right. Mana Guide, unique amber amulet. It's going to be like the Sork thing all over again, by the way. While channeling focus, you move towards your current target location at 70% of the normal movement speed. So it's like Ghost Flame. You move around while you're using focus, which, by the way, just that line is insanely strong because focus gives you a lot of armor, a lot of less damage taken, and restores your mana at the same time.
Moving while channeling your source of DR is a very high starting point.
Yep.
Keep going.
So like Ghost Flame got nerfed, by the way.
Man, when you listen to Dread talk about this item, think about the release version of Ghost Flame in the back of your head. And just like, you know, think about it. Dread, keep going.
While channeling focus, you cast Lightning Blast 3 times per second. That's pretty good. That's like almost better than self-casting Lightning Blast. Okay. Mana regen from focus is half as effective. We did the math. If you use this while you are out of mana, you'll get like 150% mana regen still. It's a lot. And then immediately right after that, 69% increased mana regen. This is going to be used on builds outside of the focus build because that's a lot of mana regen because you get this plus mana regen on top of it. Turns out that's pretty good. 42 ward per second while channeling. That's okay. 98 ward decay threshold. That's okay. And then 27% lightning resistance. So Perry, do you think this item's going to wreck the game?
I'm skeptical of channeling. I've made videos in the past like complaining about channeling builds and how like they're binary of like whether they're like OP or not OP. Like they're like OP or like very weak. Channeling and moving at the same time sets up this paradigm where you likely begin channeling and you never stop channeling, which means like your gameplay, if this item's good, your gameplay kind of becomes boring. Like you hold down one button, you kind of move around. Some people like that, some people don't. I just think it's problematic in general because I think the game is supposed to be more active than that, but that's beside the point. the starting point for this item of evaluating whether it's good or not is very high. Focus has a lot of damage reduction built into it. This is a good item with relevant text on it. It shoots lightning blast for you. So like it's automating something. And then lightning blast gives you access to, spark charges, for example, if you wanted
Also,
to.
Harbingers of the Stars is an item, by the way.
Harbinger of the Stars is an item. Yeah, great shout out too. You already have your mana regeneration. So like I don't know what the build looks like, but it's
There's going to be a build, and it's going to be degenerate.
Is this gonna be like meta defining? Is this gonna be release Ghost Flame where it's like totally OP and like everybody uses it? Is it gonna be a meme? I don't know. I hope it's a meme.
I hope it's a fun meme. This is Diablo 3 unique design. This is not Last Epoch unique design. This is just an absurdly stupid unique, by the way. Like, obviously, you're like, well, 70% of your movement speed that sounds like a big penalty.
It sounds fine
like
to me.
200% movement speed. That's not that much.
I hope it ends up being a fun meme that you have to work a little bit to make it work. You know what I mean?
Like, well, my problem is, let's completely ignore the lightning blast part. Okay, we don't even talk about lightning blast. People use focus anyways, so like. This is just focus, but better, and you get to move while you're focusing. And like, let's say you dump all your mana to use static orb, because they're probably not going to nerf.
Okay, so you're gonna like DPS static orb and then channel focus and wiggle around.
Then channel focus and walk around, right? That's already better than what people do now.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's like obviously you're not getting all of your mana at once, but like the thing is like that's just fine. Like that's not terrible. And then remember as well, let's assume you're not consuming your mana. You can go mind over matter with this. You can just be absurdly tanky while channeling it.
I feel like if we can come up with this after talking about the item for like 15 seconds, like it's probably a good item. This is very likely going to be.
I really don't think it needs the lightning blast line, by the way. It legitimately doesn't need that. Like
that's a really good observation. I've talked about that in the past.
It doesn't need that.
Yeah, I've talked about what's the axe Cleaver Solution.
Yeah,
and one of my critiques of Cleaver Solution, the axe that gives you like your intelligence is equal to your strength. One of my critiques in the past is like if you delete any singular line of text off this item, it's still an S tier item that everybody wants to use. So it probably shouldn't have more damage against bleeding targets and +1 to all skills, and also it has flat melee damage on it, and it also has this other thing, right? Like
I would rather just have this not exist in the first place. It looks like it's just going to be degenerate no matter how it's being used. But it's too late for that now.
We'll see. I hope it's a meme. I hope it's not meta defining. If it's meta defining, that sounds kind of boring to me.
Because I don't want another Sork meta, dude. Like, come on, we just had one.
After that, the next screenshot for us to scroll through, this is something called cocooned items. And we reference this a little bit. We don't know what cocooned means. The only line of text on any of these items is reveal by attempting to equip. So my assumption is that this is some kind of like bind on equip.
It's a loot box.
I guess it's a loot box, but I think it's gonna be bind on equip. Maybe it's not bind on equip. I don't know, but I feel like something that says like reveal by attempting to equip. If you put that alongside a bind on equip system that disallowed trading on end game chase unique items, I think that'd be cool. I think it would be. We have no idea what the system behind cocooned items look like. I don't know. Hard to evaluate. You got any thoughts on it? We should just keep going past this thing.
I think cocooned items are just like, I don't know. I just think that like okay. What is one of the reasons why I like Last Epoch over Path of Exile?
Is it because it doesn't have
I normally don't talk about this. I normally don't talk about this because I respect both games and I love them both. But one thing I will say, being able to actually like loot filter out items off the ground and not have to identify, like that's one of the cool things about Last Epoch. This removes that. Now I have to pick up the item, and then if it's like Pearl the Swine, but if it's like, the penance version,
you got to equip it and then find out that it's the penance version.
Yeah. Then I have to drop it on the ground.
That's a good critique. I wonder how common this is going to be. Is it going to be like once every 20 minutes you find one of these? Or is this going to be like
Of course, well, it's fine. I think it's just more uniques in general. It's just like I just hope that like the base pool isn't this. Like they don't put these in the base pool. It's just like some random thing on the side. It's not
They
just like
all have the word unique on them. So presumably these are just like items that we don't know about yet.
because getting to actually like filter out stuff is cool. So I would like to keep it that way.
All right. Let's see. What's past this? They said set things, screenshot of this,
No,
screenshot
everything
of that.
else is like just everything we've talked about in
Okay.
that imager link. That's
Done.
gonna be it pretty much.
All right, so we got to make sure that we include both of these imager links in the YouTube video,
Yeah.
and then for the Spotify
yeah,
as well.
I'll make sure to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We've been going for an hour and 5 minutes. This is an appropriate time to cut it off. Is there anything else? Twitch chat, answer this question as well. Is there anything else you want to talk about regarding spoilers from the Ziz and Rax thing that happened today? Or
I have something I want to say.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They did a really good job. So I was watching Rax before because I was waiting, right? And he was watching the D4 campfire, and just the overall just vibe from going from the D4 campfire, then going to the LE podcast, right? Is literally all of the marketing that Last Epoch will ever need. Like going from the D4 campfire chat, which happened today, right? And then going to like the Last Epoch thing. It was such a I don't know. It was so freaking funny. Let's put it like that.
I like it. There's one more thing that stands out to me before I alt tab back to Twitch chat, and that is apparently they said today about crafting materials for Last Epoch. They said shards will automatically transfer to your crafting inventory, so you don't need to push the button. It's an option. Mm-hmm. You can if you want to, but you don't need to click the button anymore. Which seems
like Last Epoch Ruthless, where they're going to make it so you have to press the button again.
So they said for a while that, and this is funny because we can talk about mastery respecs, I guess, if you want to. But they said like they wanted this friction in the game where like the item crafting affix shard, it's an item, and you pick up the item, and it's supposed to clutter your inventory so that it reminds you that it's an item, so that you remember that you picked it up, so that you can craft with it later. And like that tension and that friction is supposed to be there, and then they just have this button that you end up clicking once every 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I get where they're coming from, but like it's boring. Get rid of it. So they got rid of it. Good.
I think we can. So for the mastery respec thing, I think we can save that for the end of the next podcast. Because we're probably not going to have that much stuff leaked, considering it's the second podcast out of the 4. Unless I'm wrong, and then we'll never talk about it, and it doesn't matter because the whole entire community is unanimous on it for the most part, other than a few cringe words, right?
You and I yesterday were talking on stream. We had to specifically go out of our way and dig through the comment section on the forums on lastepoch.com in order to find people who think that the mastery respec is a bad idea. It sure seems like the vast majority of people are on board with it, and I am too. I think the mastery respec sounds good. But the reason that I mention it here is in the past, Last Epoch or EHG said we want a decision to matter. Like you can respec all of these things, and you can respec all of these things. We want at least one thing to stay set in stone, which is why we're introducing the artificial friction of not allowing you to change your mastery once you click on it. And like they had that stance in the past, and then we've had a couple years go by at this point, and they're like, yeah, maybe not. So this is a huge victory for casual players and for everyone, especially casual players and me and casual players. I don't know who doesn't like this idea. It's such a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be it. I have a date with my wife tonight, so we can probably.
Oh shit! All right, we gotta go. Chat, we're gonna end the stream right now. Dred's got a hot date. Sounds good. If you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify after that, make sure you let us know where you're watching it. We will make sure the viewing experience, listening experience is as good as possible. So again, this will go up on the Rat City Radio podcast YouTube channel in a matter of days. It is available right now in my Twitch VODs if you want to go back and look at that. Or sorry, not Twitch VODs because those are being deleted. YouTube VODs. Use those instead. And then, of course, it'll be up on Spotify for your listening experience as you drive to work. So, Dred, thank you for spending your time here before your dates. Appreciate you, buddy. I'll talk to you next time. Cool. And chat, I'll see you next time. Have a good night.